With the mission to keep as many men on as many guns for as long as possible, we called him Doc. Welcome to Combat Vet Vision. And now your host, Aaron Chief Siebert.
Hey, how's everybody doing? Hey, this is Combat Vet Vision, brought to you by SitchRadio.com. Thanks for Brian Colburn for pushing me in this direction of this podcasting. This is where I get to give my opinion. This is where I get to talk about my stories, my life experiences, and our guests that get to come on here. You know, these are combat vets or sponsors, supporters, volunteers that want to tell their story, why they're interacting, what they do, how they transition, whatever it might be. But it doesn't represent the whole military as a whole, but it represents us as human beings and what we're doing to help out each other, to help out ourselves, and to push hopefully in a better positive direction. But I'm really awesome. I'm really honored today to have Timothy Yates on deck. Timothy Yates, I met him way back. His dad was starting Task Force Heroes, and this whole process was kicking off in Montana. But he was still active duty. He was still doing some stuff. Purple Heart recipient. He was combat wounded. He was also wounded, and they basically forced him out at that point. So he went and did some really cool stuff, and he's on to talk about his story, his things, and tell a little bit about his transition and a whole bunch of cool stuff. So Timothy Yates, man, thanks for being on, brother. How you doing? United States Army.
Good. How are you?
Good. So what was it that inspired you to join the Army to begin with?
That's kind of a funny story. I was in sixth grade when the towers, got hit, and for years you just watch on the news all these soldiers overseas getting killed. So I actually didn't want anything to do with the military. I came home my junior year, and I had an Army recruiter sitting in the living room on the couch, and that my dad had. So yeah, that's kind of what kicked that off. Got to talking with him, and saw an opportunity to go to college for free. My family obviously didn't have a bunch of money growing up, so it was an opportunity for me to get to college, and they enticed me with a nice little bonus, so that was cool at 17 years old. Little money. So that kind of is what happened there. And then obviously as I joined and got to serve my country, I fell in love with the job and with more in love with the country, and I wouldn't have changed for anything in the world, So yeah, that's kind of my story is kind of funny because I really didn't want anything to do. It was a big. My recruiter still talks to me, today. He's like, when you walked in the door that day from school, you were not happy. And I was like, no, I was pissed.
Yeah, talk a little bit about your dad. Your dad, Shane Yates. He's a police officer. He was pushing some really cool things.
Yeah.
Go into that. Why did that? Your dad's influence. He had that aura. Yeah.
Yeah. My family, my grandpa's on both sides, both military. My dad's dad was in the Army, Vietnam. A bunch of his uncles were all in Vietnam. And then my dad's dad became a CHP. He was California Highway Patrol for a long time. And then my dad, he actually was born in California, grew up in Kodiak, Alaska. He's got his own wild story. Hopefully one day you can get him on here to tell his story. Got recruited to play college basketball. Then the coach at Boise State was like, hey, dude, you've ever played football? Walked on to the football team at Boise State and played there for a while. And then just kind of got the calling to be a cop. So tested and went through the academy with the LA Sheriff's Department. Was in the 92 riots, and I was born in Palmdale, so we were living down in SoCal, and Palmdale is not the greatest of areas, so my dad was working a lot of nights, and me and my mom were at home alone, and got suspects running through the yard and helicopters and stuff over the house. So he decided to lateral up to Vancouver, Washington, to the Vancouver Police Department, and finished his career out up there. Towards the end of his career, he had a calling to be a chaplain in the Army. And he actually joined, I think we were like 3 or 4 months apart from joining the military. So yeah, he had a big push, obviously his dad being in the military, he had just recently joined, and he, obviously come from the police background, that very structured environment. So, he wanted, I think, me to get some discipline and stuff, because I definitely pushed his buttons growing up. So I think that was some of the motivation, and it was good for me. Definitely gave me some direction, and because I was just one of those kids that wanted to hang out with my friends and, screw around, not really pay attention during class and whatnot. So yeah, he joined the Army. I joined the Army. He went to his chaplaincy school and whatnot. I left after him. I had to graduate. So I had to wait till I graduated high school before I could leave for basic. So graduated at 17. I turned 18 that summer and went straight to basic like a week after I turned 18. Went to Fort Benning, and then I went through my AIT and all that stuff. I had 2 weeks leave, and had orders for Iraq. And so me and my dad actually have a pretty unique story there. We both got stationed over in Baghdad, Iraq together. We're there during the same time. So that's pretty unique story. Pretty cool to have, your dad with you in a combat zone. So
Yeah. And then
so
talk a little bit about that deployment. And
so that one was we were gone for a little over a year on that caper. My squadron got assigned to do personal security for all the high-level dignitaries coming in and out of Iraq. So got to meet a lot of celebrities and generals. I mean, Admiral Mike Mullen did security for Robert Gates, who was the Secretary of Defense at the time. Admiral Mullen at the time was the Joint Chief of Staff, highest ranking military official. Drove him around. Odinero, all the big generals, and you'd have the sports teams come out and the WWE and all that stuff. But yeah, pretty easy deployment, I guess. Like I said, having a family member there and your dad there, we weren't hanging out all the time, but to see him, once a month or every couple weeks was just kind of cool, just to connect, and just kind of forgot that you were sitting in the middle of a foreign country with the war going on, So that was cool. That's a very unique bond that me and him share, that not a lot of people get to have that with their dad.
Right.
So yeah, that we were mostly operating, on a lot of the bases and flying from one base to the other. We weren't out there doing like foot patrols or anything like that, but get the occasional rockets and stuff, coming in. I think that was probably the first time I remember being on the phone one night with my mom, and they had launched a rocket and it hit the building, and a huge explosion, and my mom's freaking out, and I'm 18 years old, and what do you say to her? I gotta go, so definitely an experience at that age, 18, you're pretty immature. That makes you grow up real quick, and makes you I think it teaches you to value things in life like family and the things that are important to you, because we did lose guys in some of the sister squadrons and whatnot, that were out, grinding patrols and stuff. Young kids that were same age as me, guys that I had met and hung out with before. So, it definitely put things into perspective. And I noticed a huge difference after I came back from that deployment, and some of my friends they're still in high school, and, the maturity levels are just totally different playing fields. So yeah, it made you grow up real quick, at that age, for sure.
Right. And you were injured on that deployment?
No, not that one. So I I went to MEPS and I had all these plans. I got qualified for like every job in the Army, and MEPS basically told me I was colorblind. So my job list from went from 200 down to like 6. So I picked a communications job, 25 Charlie, because it was the closest thing, to infantry, and basically just the dude with the radios, what the recruiter told me. I didn't care for it. I hated it, and I did a deployment. So I came back to the States and just didn't like that job, and was searching around for something to get an MLS change and different career path. And a friend of mine at the time, a friend of the family's, was in civil affairs, retired, and said, "Hey, call this guy and he can help you." It was a lieutenant colonel. I think his name was Lieutenant Colonel Fish. And so I was just a specialist at the time, and I'm calling this lieutenant colonel and saying, "Hey, I want to come over and change my job, change my MLS, and I want to go to schools. I want to get promoted, and he's like, "Yeah, I've got an E5 slot for you. I've got airborne. I've got all these schools." He's like, "Here's the paragraph and line number." So got released from my unit that I was with, and went over to that. Went to the MLSQ school, and same type of thing. Went to MLSQ, went to airborne, and met my team up in Fort Dix, New Jersey, and went straight to Afghanistan. We got assigned to 7th Group, so we stayed north of Kandahar on a VSP, a Village Stability Platform, with ODA 7225, and then they were replaced by 7114. So that was a lot different deployment from the first one. The first one I had my own room. I'm protected. I'm hanging out with generals, and living in a tent, for 9 months, no running water, no bathrooms, just 20 dudes up in the mountains. Basically it was kind of a Taliban holding area. We were fairly close, I guess, to the Pakistan border. So the whole objective was to cut off the trade route that they were transporting HME, the homemade explosives, in from Pakistan. And then they were bringing in fighters from Pakistan and holding them kind of in this area. So, I mean, their job was to disrupt that. My team, to go in there and basically kind of figure out what's going on, who's who, what's what. A ton of key leader engagements and creating bio cards and link analysis, and then reporting that up to the battle space commanders, and the SOTA South commanders, to kind of make some decisions on what needed to be done in the area. But a stronghold of Taliban fighters. It was it got pretty intense, I guess, at times. I think in total we were up there in that base, that compound, for about 9 months. I think we were involved in 146 or 143 troops in contact. We were running our mission. We had a high tempo mission set, running missions pretty much every other day. So mission one day, basically a rest and reset a day, and then on to the next one. Just really trying to create a presence there. From the information we were given when we first got there, this was in 2012. There hadn't been any American forces up in that area, and there hadn't been any forces there since 2007. And they were Canadians back in 2007. So it was a pretty rural area, and a lot of those people really understand what was going on or why we were there. So yeah, it was just very interesting, and pretty wild experience. So I was wounded on that tour, November 2nd, 2012. I wasn't even, it's one of those typical stories, wasn't supposed to be in that vehicle. I don't even remember if I was supposed to be on that mission, but somebody was sick or something, and we were shorthanded that day. I mean, we had a pretty, like I said, there's at any given day, there's probably only about 20 of us up there. So it was pretty shorthanded anyway. I got put up in the lead truck to be the gunner on that vehicle, and we had gotten some intel that there was a high level, high value target down in this village to the south of our compound. So we had called up the infantry unit that was at a cob about 30 miles away. They came up from the south. It was in this valley. We came in from the north, and we were supposed to try and get these dudes. Well, they littered the roads in there with IEDs. So my vehicle struck an IED, and one of those things that was just you see in the movies, everything kind of goes slow-mo and silent, and that's exactly what happened. So the two of us in the vehicle, both injured. Vehicles smoking on fire, hydraulic lines and oils burning, and trucks starting to fill up with smoke. I just got on the radio, popped down, got on the radio. Hey, we're hit. We hit an IED probably about a mile back before that. And so we had dismounted all the non-essential personnel to get up on the high ground and walk along the route we were taking in, just to kind of minimize casualties. And we were picking up ICOM traffic from the Taliban. They were watching us and saw what we were doing. So just to kind of show a force, and then obviously minimize casualties, push everyone out that didn't need to be in the vehicles as we're walking in and driving into this village. So injured, traumatic brain injury, ruptured eardrums, bleeding in the ears, nose, mouth, typical stuff. And so I popped, it was an RG-33 that I was in, popped the hatch to get the smoke out so we get some air so we can breathe. And I just saw chunks of jug everywhere, and they called somebody to push us out, ended up finding a secondary IED in there. So there was 200-gallon jugs of HME. Only one of them went off. So we were pretty fortunate with all that. Got back up, got the 50 cal back online. And at that time, the Taliban were on the ICOM radios, just telling them that we were still alive, and basically just hit them. But just remember, they kept saying, hit them with everything they got, hit them now. They never, I don't know what, if it was a scare tactic or what, they never got any shots off or never did anything after the last explosion. But so, we got the vehicle kind of pushed out of there. We had to blow in place a bunch of items that we couldn't extract out of there. And called for medevac for me and the driver. That was denied due to the air. I think it was black. Couldn't get any support out there, so we got medevac 3 days later. Flown down into the Kandahar airfield at the Navy Rule 3. And this was we were supposed to leave country. My team was in January, so this is November. I remember being in the hospital bed, and the commander, my first sergeant, First Sergeant Aerosmith, who was with 75th Ranger Battalion. Combat jumped into Panama. Dude's legit. And then Major Avens. They wanted to hold me back and not let me go back to my team and just kind of ride out the rest of the deployment. And I just remember looking at him. I said, no, I'm on the next flight out of here to go back to my team. my major just looked at me. I was an E5 at the time, so he's like, what? And first sergeant just looked at him and says, well, I guess he's going back. So I ended up going back up, met my team back up there, I don't know, a week later, and finished the rest of the deployment out up there. I suffered a lot with headaches and stuff. I didn't say a whole lot because I just trying to tough it out. But I got back in January and just started to experience a lot of super intense headaches to the point where I was vomiting. And, you know, nobody would really do anything. Tried going to the hospitals, tried the VA. You know, the VA couldn't see me. They wouldn't do anything for me for 6 months. Hospital wouldn't do anything. You know, they had to go through all these procedures, and I'm like, I got some issues. So yeah, got some brain scan stuff done. They, you know, at that time, I don't know if there was a whole lot of technology. They had images of my brain. They don't, you know what the brain looked like before the injury happened. So they didn't really know what to do. But I was having trouble a little bit with some slurred speech and some short-term memory stuff. So I got put into some of those classes, speech therapy and memory therapy stuff for a while. Yeah, I ended up staying in the Army. They did award me a Purple Heart for that situation. So yeah, I kind of fast tracked, I guess, a few years after that to 2017. One of the sister companies got assigned some stuff with Paycom. And so I got moved to a different company. They needed some experienced NCOs to lead some teams for some upcoming missions and some training stuff. So 2016-17, I switched companies, still doing civil affairs type stuff. We were doing Operation Talisman Saber. We were getting ready for that. It's a big biannual joint training mission for Paycom. We were supposed to fly up to Alaska, meet the, I think, Canadian commandos, and then supposed to do a bunch of stuff with the Australian commandos. Supposed to jump into Australia and do some airfield seizure stuff and whatnot. And so, yeah, training my team up for that. I believe we were supposed to be QRF for Paycom. Was kind of the whole... We were supporting, I believe it was the 425th up in Alaska, and they were QRF as well. And so we were supposed to be supporting that supporting element for them. And this was kind of during the whole time of the North Korea thing, kind of getting a little sketchy up there. So whether or not we were training for that or not, I'm not really sure. But so anyways, yeah, I did a training jump a few days before we were supposed to leave to go to Alaska. I was down in Camp Pendleton area, Brown Airfield, jumped out of there, jumped in kind of by the Cali-Mexi border there. And about 150 feet off the ground, I caught a weird tailwind as a full combat load jump. I hit, did a PLF like I was supposed to, and something felt funny. I heard a crack, and I instantly knew it was my femur. So I knew I broke my femur, and I just kind of laid there for a second. I forgot to pop my rings off my chute, and the wind picked up. I got a broken leg. I'm getting dragged across the desert, so I'm frantically, trying to pop my loops, and I started yelling for a medic, and the specialist come running over. They had a medical crew, I think from the National Guard out there, that was running the DZ that day. And yeah, basically said, hey, here's the deal. Broke my femur. I need an IV going. I need morphine, and I need a traction splint. And he just kind of looked at me, and he's like, well, are you sure? And he reached down and squeezed my leg. I just remember grabbing that kid by the collar, and I said, listen, I told you I effing broke this thing. don't touch my leg again. I told you what I need. Go get it. And anyways, they ended up not having any pain meds out there. So I laid out in the for 2.5 hours with no pain meds, broken leg. Got a traction splint. Got that going. Had to pull traction on that twice. And then it was just kind of a race between who could get there first. I believe there was a crew dispatched from Balboa, the Navy, and then there was a civilian air crew dispatched because we were in Desert Regional Hospital out of Palm Springs, their airspace with Reach Air. So Reach Air was actually the first one on site, and they picked me up. And they hit me with ketamine right off the bat, and I don't remember a whole lot after that. I remember getting loaded into the helicopter, and the blades were slow motion, And shattered my femur, broken basic places, and then the places that were broken were split in the middle, split down to my knee, and there was a bunch of chunks in the head of my femur. So underwent 2 surgeries right off the bat, back to back, kind of a week apart. Got sent up to Fort Lewis, Washington, the Warrior Transition Unit up there to kind of go through rehab. I spent about 2 months in a hospital bed initially at the hospital, and then they did in like an in-home hospital bed thing. I had them send me to my parents. I was living, in an apartment at the time, so going from being, kind of the man. I was doing MMA. I was doing some desert motocross stuff. I was doing the Army thing, and then to be laid up in a hospital bed for 2 months, not able to even, I was in the hospital. I couldn't even wipe my own ass. It's definitely demoralizing, and I think that was kind of one of the hardest points of it all, was just sitting there, not being able to do anything for yourself. And so that it for a long time. And it was hard, having to get around in a walker, then crutch and transition to a cane. I did that for about 6 months. I couldn't get rid of the limp. And I just knew something wasn't right. And so I had a meeting with the colonel of the hospital at Fort Lewis. And I just said, something's not right here. They remeasured the femur and found that it was 2 inches too short. And her recommendation was just to get a custom orthotic, that they weren't gonna, there was nothing they could do with it now at this point, that it is what it is. And I just looked at her and I told her that that's not going to work for me. I don't think you understand what I do in the military and the lifestyle that I live, but a 2-inch custom orthotic isn't going to fly. So I said, we need to figure something else out. So it was at that point we decided to send me down to Fort Carson, Colorado. There was a surgeon down there that she thought might be able to help me. So I got the paperwork for that all taken care of, got sent down to Fort Carson. The surgeon down there, same thing. Didn't think he could do what I needed to do, or do what I needed to have done. We were talking about doing a magic rod, which is a rod that goes to the center of the femur. You would basically break it in a section, and then that rod has a motor, a magnetic motor that you're able to, I think, adjust a millimeter a week. And so that was one of the ways, one of the newer technologies you can use to fix extremity length situations. So for my situation, obviously trying to get 2 inches back in my femur. Long story short, he couldn't do anything. So they offered me a deal to keep me on active duty, send me back to a home of record, and find a civilian surgeon that specialized in limb lengthening that could do this procedure. So I came out to Montana, and we'll probably touch base on all that. My family during this all injury, we had task force heroes.
Yeah, I met you before this injury,
Yeah,
and you were already injured. Your dad and was really wanted to get this task force heroes up and running. You guys came to us and said, "Hey, we want to find somebody who's missing an appendage to surprise them with an awesome deal that you guys put together." Talk a little bit about that, and then we'll get back into your injuries
yeah,
and just touch bases on that. That's a really rad story. And Task Force Heroes, obviously, another great nonprofit organization
yeah.
helping veterans.
Task force heroes was started, by my dad. I think they started the process with all that in 2010, 2011. My dad saw a huge need for something for police officers originally, an outlet for them to go to get some counseling and get some help. Those guys are going on calls every day and just dumping and going to the next call, dumping and going to the next call. And, after 20 years of that, shit catches up with you. So I think that was the original intent of Task Force Heroes. After being deployed and being in the military, seeing the struggles, not only of the guys that he's counseling, his own struggles, some of my struggles, him and the board of directors, they launched Task Force Heroes down in California for all military and first responders. So that kicked off. I started helping my dad with some of that stuff in 2014. So a couple years after my own injury and deployments, I saw a need for it too. Obviously, I had my own struggles coming back from a deployment and married and kids and all that chaos that goes into all that. And so so we met. I don't even remember how I got your contact information, but somebody gave me your contact information. I think I called you and we set up an appointment to come down to the Warrior Built Foundation and get a tour. And I remember talking to you and you're like, I've got a guy. I've got your guy. And that was an opportunity that we had, and we met Gio. The whole mission was to find a guy that has mission in extremity and build a bike for him, give him an opportunity to do something that he loves again. Because I think so often a lot of guys get injured and they can't do the same things that they used to do, and it really messes with you mentally. So if we can give back just a little bit to somebody and give them something again, give them some hope. That was kind of the whole purpose of it, And we met Gio, and the dude's just an awesome kid. I just remember listening to his story. Him and his buddy get his arm blown off, by an RPG or whatever, and like he didn't even think twice. He just put a tourniquet on his buddy before even doing anything for himself. And so that really just I was just like, yeah, this is definitely the guy. And, watching videos of him and stuff racing motocross. And so, we partnered with you guys, and I think you guys did some work on the bike. I was a part of the initial part of all that. And obviously it was my turn to see it all through, but after several months after all that, I think the week that we told Gio that he was going to be the one getting this bike, basically the way we worked it out is we were going to surprise Gio, and we came down to the Warrior Built Foundation to meet him because we were building a bike for somebody else.
That's somebody else. You're saying this. Yeah, we're building a guy. He's got a similar injury. Blah blah blah. We want you to come down. What bike will work for him?
My dad took down to the Harley shop and was like, which bike do you think this guy would like, and what would fit the best with a missing arm and blah, blah, blah. And yeah, he found this bike, and I think it's on video. I remember watching a video of it. I think it's on the Task Force Heroes webpage or something like that. But
Oh yeah.
Yeah, my dad, I think, told him right there. He's like, "Yeah, we don't
Have anybody,
buddy. This bike's for you, man. We're doing this for you." And I just remember him getting choked up, and that was awesome. I'm super bummed I didn't get to be a part of, the build process. And I think you guys were all down for the unveiling of the bike and down there at the Los Angeles Harley. All those guys were great. All your guys. We had a couple other companies that helped out with that project with doing some paint work, some custom paint work on the bike. I think you guys the recluse clutch and stuff for him and some of.
We did the Alan Chadwick. He's awesome at doing the recluse clutches now. Obviously, with guys with injuries doing motocross, and a lot of motocross riders are using the recluse clutch now. So the recluse clutch and the hand placement for his attachment. Yeah. So making sure that was up in par. So
yeah, it was super cool. I mean, just that whole seeing that bike. I mean, I still haven't to this day seen it in person, but me and Gio are still buddies, like I said on Instagram earlier before the show, and we keep in touch. And it's super cool to see him out there bombing around on that thing, and just kind of a weird thing, like I was telling you before the show. His story and he got placed in my life at a time. We were talking about not knowing, networking, and you never know how somebody can help you later on. You never know the people that, like God puts in your life, they might help you later on. And I think Gio was one of those guys, because I was sitting in the hospital bed. I remember so clearly sitting in my hospital bed, sitting there feeling sorry for myself so many times. And I'm like, I don't have it that bad. I still have my leg. And I said, I'm literally in the middle of helping build this project, this bike for this guy that's got a missing arm. And he didn't give up on his dreams. Like, he's still out there riding dirt bikes and Harleys and doing his thing. Like, it's not affecting him. Why can't I get in that mindset? And so that was, I think, looking back now, I think he was obviously placed in my life, and I've never told him this. So if he's listening, like, Gio, you helped me out, brother, whether you know it or not. And so, yeah, I mean, just one of those things to get in that mindset that, if he can do it, I sure as hell can do it. And so that was a big motivation for me. And then my kids too, after this, going back to the surgeries and stuff. So yeah, Task Force Heroes during that whole time got transitioned from California. They were able to secure, I think it's a 10,000 square foot lodge up here. We got 80 acres. And so they moved shop up here. So when they gave me the opportunity to come back to my home of record, which was now Montana, because that's where my family and support system was at, I was like, yeah, let's go. So basically, yeah, I was on active duty stationed in Montana at Task Force Heroes, and got an opportunity to help that program, help my dad out. And so I did that for a number of years, touched a lot of people. And during that process, I had to have another surgery. Reached out to Dr. Higgins, who's at the University of Utah. I believe he sits on the board of orthopedic surgery. And I'll never be able to thank that dude enough. I sent him an email and gave him my story. He was booked out, I think, for 6 or 8 months, and they weren't accepting any new patients. And that dude called me the next day and he said, "Can you be down here next week?" And I said, "Yeah, what day?" Ended up going down there. He took an x-ray. Yeah, my legs were 2 inches different. I had a severe bone infection down the whole right side of my femur. They go in, take the old rod out. They filleted the whole side of my leg open. They cut out a bunch of the rotten bone that was dead and infected. They rebroke it in 2 places, put a new rod in, gave me back about 1.5 inches, and then cadaver bone, and just prayed that it would take. I got put on 2,000 milligrams of amoxicillin for six weeks to try to beat the infection. And we ended up beating the infection. So a lot of the bone didn't take. So we almost went in. We almost went into an emergency 4th surgery. I kind of just asked them to give me 30 days to see what happens. And this was about 6 months after the 3rd surgery. And did another x-ray, and it healed up enough. So now I've just kind of had to, it hurts, it aches. Got a lot of scar tissue and stuff. They, told me I'll never run again. They told me I'll never lift more than 50 pounds. And that's ultimately what they got me medically retired for, is my leg. So that's been a challenge myself, just trying to learn how, obviously I was going to spend 20 years in the military, and then to have that cut short and then just get thrown out into the civilian world, been a huge, huge challenge. Because it was, one day you're going to go back. I'm trying to fight to stay in the Army, to know you're done. And you've got 30 days of leave acquired or accumulated, and then you're basically on your own. So now you got 30 days to figure out what you want to be when you grow up, And so that's been difficult. And so, I ended up moving to Washington, and I took a job working with a national home builder. I did that for about almost a year, and now I've started my own company, Yates Custom Homes, and I'm back here in Montana right now, and I'm building custom homes in Montana, Washington, and Idaho. So that's kind of my journey. There's a lot more little stories and stuff in between, and trials, and things that we're faced with. I think every veteran's faced with every day, that come about. But it's definitely been challenging, for sure.
Right. So when you look back at it, like you said, this 20-year career you wanted to see come to fruition, and it, obviously these injuries just, the last injury, a training injury, took you out, 2 times the country. And your quality of life at that point, like you said, you start dwelling on these things that you're starting to feel. But luckily someone's in your life that you can reflect back on, and you'd be like, damn, Geo's out there, we're doing this project. Task Force Heroes started. Your dad wanted to make sure that happened. You came and made that happen to Warrior Build, and made that happen for Geo. Now you go out to Task Force Hero, you get to see some of this rewarding stuff where guys have gotten out, police officers that are dealing with things, to all these first responder type things. They come to Task Force Heroes facility out there in Montana, doing some crazy cool things. You were running a whole bunch of things there, but now you want to step out and you want to do some things in your own dream. You want to make some more money, do some stuff. And your quality of life right now, when you look back on it, how are you doing with the quality of life there?
It's a struggle. I mean, starting your own company, I left Task Force Heroes. With everything going on in life, I just felt like that was kind of supposed to step away for a little while. And it's been challenging me financially. Starting your own company is not cheap. I'm doing it all on my own. So there's a lot of stress there. I've got a bunch of kids I got to support, and so it's difficult, but it's working for Task Force Heroes since I've been out was super rewarding, just because you're touching so many lives. Not that it's about myself. It's not about my dad. It's not our mindset. It's about helping our brothers and sisters that are struggling and meeting them where they're at. But they send us text messages. They write in the logbook at the front door there. To read some of their testimonials, and to get the text messages and the phone calls that you've changed my life. Being at the retreat center, doing this, that's, like I said, if you can help just one person. Like if I can help one person in life, then it's like mission complete for me. I have a calling to help people. And so with my home building company, it's not about making a bunch of money. Like I want to help people get into a dream house at an affordable price. And also with that, like I want to give back to these nonprofits and some of these organizations like Warrior Build and Task Force Heroes. So 10% of like our profits as a company each year will go to donations to veteran and first responder organizations that help guys and gals. So right now I've got, I'm trying to figure out my own path in life, so that's kind of why I stepped away. I think someday I'll be more involved, whether it's with Task Force Heroes or another, nonprofit. That's obviously the goal. But right now it's just about providing and that legacy for myself and whatnot. So, I want my kids to see that I worked hard and followed my dreams and was happy. And so building homes and helping veterans and helping people, those are things that make me happy. So that's what I'm going to do.
Well, that's good stuff, man. It's awesome to know you. It's awesome to bring you on the show. Thanks for coming on. Combat Vet Vision and telling your story. I mean, this is also going to reach out and touch some people. Maybe you just never know. Somebody's going to listen to this, or they're going to want to relate to it, and then they're not going to feel so alone. But if somebody wants to get a hold of you, if they want to see you, throw your information out there, especially your business information. Obviously, doing these custom homes in some of the best states out there.
Yeah.
So
my Instagram handles at Yates_custom_homes. My email is timothyjames25@gmail.com. And those are probably the two best ways to get a hold of me. Like I said, there's a lot more to my story, a lot more challenges. I've been through a lot. My family's been through a lot. And so if there's, I guess my thing I want to put out there is, you're not alone. It can get pretty dark out there. And it's really easy to get into some dark places in your head and be consumed by it. And I just want to let everyone that's listening know that you're not alone, and there's people just like you that are dealing with the same thing, and some of us have made it on the other side. So if you ever have questions or want to talk to somebody, feel free to reach out to me, or Aaron's another good point of contact. But my information's out there. Please reach out.
Yeah, and if you need to get a hold of him, want to get a hold of him, something like that kicked off, then please hit me up, and I'll definitely link you up with Timothy. And
Task Force Heroes, they do their losing my voice.
Yeah.
They do their retreats from end of May to the beginning of November. It's usually small groups, 5 to 7 guys at a time, every other week. So their handles at task_force_heroes. And just ask.
Yeah, you can look him up. You can look him up on the internet too and find him right away. You can see the emblem from my post on this show on Timothy's picture. But great having you, brother. Thanks for
so much.
Thanks for everything you do. And
I think I maybe needed like 3 hours to really get in depth, but hopefully we covered some stuff. I didn't want to make it about me because it's not, but yeah.
Hey, but we can get you back on the show later on, and there's probably some other things that you want to talk about. I mean, there's you got some in-depth stuff. Your articulation of your injuries to your story, awesome storyteller, brother. I'll tell you what, man, I was listening pretty intently, and
I'm gonna
enjoy it.
Life.
It's good. Hey, but if you want some help out there, there's help. Task Force Heroes is another awesome resource. They got their facility out there in Montana, beautiful oasis kind of thing, on some land and some hikes, some fishing, some amazing things. But there's other organizations out there. Obviously, Combat Vet Vision is sponsored by Warrior Built Foundation, the PTSD Foundation of America. But there are so many organizations I want to bring on deck to talk about different things, not to mention combat vets, sponsor, supporters, volunteers. you name it. And there's some really good ones out there. But thanks a lot for Timothy to be on my show, and please hit me up. This is Aaron Siebert for this week, signing off. Strength and honor. Out.